not everyone is going to take care of you the way you are going to take care of yourself. So you need to be in charge. You need to be able to drive the bus no matter what level you're at, whether you're the commander or whether you're the private, whether you're the CEO or whether you're just the employee. It doesn't matter whether you're the spiritual leader of your family or whether you're just the one who's following and learning. But in either case, no matter where you are at, we all need to take full responsibility, accountability for our lives, accountability for our actions, so that we can be the best versions of ourselves, as we talk about all the time on this podcast. So, for example, when I was in the Navy, I had leadership above me, obviously, but I also was in positions of leadership. And so I had the ability to influence certain things at my level. Didn't mean that I could just do anything all willy-nilly, but it did mean that I had some type of a say-so. But even when I didn't have some type of a say-so, I still made sure I did what I could do. So let's start out when I was at the lowest levels. When I came in as, let's start with basic training. When I came in as an E1, for an example, I knew that my priority was to establish my name, to rank up as quick as possible, because I saw what the standard waiting time was to advance, but that wasn't my objective. My objective was like, hey, you know what? I'm coming in a little bit more senior in terms of life experience. I came in at 21 versus other people who usually come in at like 17 or 18. I knew that I wanted to make way more money quickly so I could take care of certain things, and I just wanted to continue to grow. And so that meant that I needed to be sharp. It meant that I needed to advance. And so what did I do? I learned the different ways to advance. And when I went into basic training, one thing that I knew I could do to advance quickly, to go from E1 to E2 in like weeks instead of waiting 9 months to do so, what I did was I had to pass my first physical fitness exam and pass a test for this thing called DEP, Delayed Entry Program, right? If I passed that test, that DEP test when I was in basic training, I don't know if this is still a thing now because I've been out of the Navy for a while, but if I had passed that exam, then, and I passed the first physical fitness assessment, that was gonna automatically move me up from E1 to E2. So what did I do? I drove the bus. I made sure that while other people didn't necessarily care, they were just going with the flow. I was like, no, I'm not gonna just go with the flow. This is important to me. I understood my priorities, and so I did what I had to do, and it resulted in me moving from E1 to E2. At the same time, while I was in the delayed entry program waiting to go into basic training, I knew that if I knew all of those things in that booklet, that I would be able to be sharp and be confident when I responded to all of the people above me whenever they asked questions or they needed us to recite some type of knowledge. I knew that going in. And so because I memorized things and I was confident in what I knew, I was essentially building up my competence, which built up my confidence. I then was able to be super sharp, super witty, super on point, very, very strategic, very, very disciplined. And that resulted in me standing out to the point where they made me the recruit chief petty officer of my division. And then I advanced at the end of basic training from E2 to E3 off of that. Now, what's the point of this story? Well, it could have took me 18 months to go from E1 to E3. But I was able to cut that time way down by taking control of what I had control of. I didn't have control of everybody else. I just knew what the process was to do what I needed to do, and I played the game correctly, and I did my part. That is what driving the bus consists of. It consists of you doing your part, taking advantage of every opportunity that will benefit you, your family, and anything that is a priority to you. That is what it's all about. When I was in the Navy and I was a first class petty officer, I remember when I was in Bahrain, I was the leading petty officer of my department, of the logs and records department. I was in aviation. And I remember we were prepping for so long for this 3-year, it was not a 3-year inspection, but it's an inspection that comes around every 3 years. It's called the Aviation Maintenance Inspection. It's the biggest inspection you can have in naval aviation. And I knew that it was a big deal. And so what I also knew was that the inspector, when they came in, they would be inspecting process. They would be inspecting, seeing how we flow with things. Are we in compliance? And then if things were a shipwreck, I knew that they would dig deep and try to go back into the history, into the archives, to see if this has been an ongoing trend of us being jacked up. So although I could not control the inspector, although I could not control everything that we had going on that was hindering us, what I could control was our cleanliness, how we presented our programs, making sure that we took care of the basics, making sure that we had an answer for anything that wasn't in compliance, right? And so that consisted of me reaching out to certain people via email for help, documenting those different things, putting in tickets where tickets needed to be entered, having all that documentation, having it organized in a nice, pretty binder, having the binders organized all nicely, having my team already prepped and ready with certain answers and understanding different processes and procedures. And a lot of it really was just housekeeping. It was really just making sure that when an inspector walked in, it smelled good, it looked good, everything was organized, because that in and of itself is a psychological thing. When people see things organized, when they see things clean, when they see things are presentable, they tend to be more receptive to what you say, and it declutters their mind. They don't come in just like, oh, you know what, this is already a crap show. I know that everything else is gonna be messed up, so we're gonna dig deep. Nah, that's not what they're gonna do. They're gonna just be like, okay, so show me your process and what's this all about. They're doing an audit, and I was literally able to run the show at that point because I won the inspector over by the first impression. Everything was clean and presentable. I was well groomed. Everything was nice. All of my guys, they were well groomed. Everyone was just doing what they needed to do. And so that's what I did at my level. I was controlling what I could control, and I was driving the bus. I didn't just let the inspector go through anything that they wanted to go through. I would explain very eloquently exactly what we were doing. I would show this is that. I would explain our process. This is the reason why we do it. I would tag my team in. I'd be like, this is why so-and-so does this. So-and-so, can you explain why you do this? Blah, 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 blah. And all of those different things, it helped. That sense of organization and being assertive and knowing what I was talking about made it so that the inspector didn't even look to dig deep. They were just like, wow, I'm really impressed with your process, and it looks like you have everything under control. Okay, no discrepancies. Everything lovely. You have an answer for the different things that are out of compliance, and we can clearly see that although you don't have this up to date right now, we understand why it's not up to date, and we understand that this is the plan of action moving forward. You have everything taken care of. We are confident that this is a tight ship you're running. That's just controlling what I could control at my level. That was driving the bus at my level.